Hey folks, Chris here, and in this video I'm going to show you on the Lectric XP 2.0 how you can tighten up your fork if it's getting all wobbly. So what that is if the headset starts coming loose, which eventually over time it probably will if it isn't already. The easy way to kind of figure out if yours is loose is one, you either just kind of know, or what you can do is if you go over to your Lectric and you just grab the front brake and hold that down real tight, and then what you want to do is basically kind of wiggle your bike forward and back, and you'll feel if the headset down here is knocking. And I can show you on this close-up here, you can see as I wiggle it, you can see mine's kind of moving because I actually just took mine all apart and loosened it up so I could show you what it looks like nice and loose. And I'm going to show you how you can take it apart and tighten it back up. There's a little bit of a process involved, but let's get to it. So the nice thing about doing this is that you don't need to put your bike in the bike stand. Just put your kickstand down and give yourself a little room around the floor. I'm just sitting on a cooler right now next to the bike. Super easy. And then what you need to do is, you can see mine's super loose right now. So you need to unfold your latch and go ahead and pop it down. And then what I do is I actually disassemble this latch. You can get and sneak up under here with a 6mm like this and work this bolt, but honestly, the amount of time that this takes you to just pop this latch off will save you a ton of time, and it's going to allow you to just get in here and get a better grip on this bolt that's down in here. So what I do to get to this little 6mm bolt easily is I remove this latch. And one thing that I've noticed after removing this latch a bunch of times is that down on the inside of this little barrel, there's actually this 2mm little cinch bolt that's down in there. And you can look on both sides. It's only going to be on one side. So if it's not on one side, it's on the other. So you actually have to loosen this little 2mm guy up a bit. It's just this little bolt that's pinching this Phillips bolt in there. It's kind of a safety lock. And then once you loosen that little 2mm, you can pull this Phillips bolt out pretty easily. So then just go ahead and unscrew this the whole way. And then this latch will come off. And then you can grab this silver part and this spring behind it. So grab these two pieces off. And then you can grab this little bolt out of here too. So I've got all these three pieces and just set them aside. And then if I pull this little barrel out, you can see on this side, there's this little bolt that's in there. And what that's doing is if I tighten it and it's a 2mm, you can see kind of down on the inside, it screws down into here and it pushes up against that bolt when it's in there to lock it into place. So if you've tried to remove this and that little Phillips just won't turn, don't just try to force it. It might strip out. Go in here with a 2mm Allen wrench and loosen this little bolt here. And you don't have to pull this little tiny thing out all the way. You just want to loosen it up a little bit. And then this bolt will come out. And then another thing I've noticed on this thing is you'll see it has a flat side on it. So when you screw the the Phillips bolt back through there, make sure you're screwing it into the flat side. Makes it a lot easier. But you can set this thing aside now too. Now with your 6mm, and again, I like using these P-handle ones, so this is the PH6. So I'll leave a link in the description below. Highly recommend you get one of these guys. Go ahead and loosen this bolt up. And you don't need to take it all the way out, just loosen it a bit, and then this whole stem will slide up out of here. And you can see underneath here that this is this wedge bolt, and that's all this bolt is doing, is wedging this up into there. And then just set the handlebars down. You can just kind of flop them onto the ground like that. So now what you need to do since you got the stem off, is you can grab this little top crown here with your hands and see if it'll just unthread. Mine just unthreads. It might be on there kind of stiff. There's also these two bolt holes that are in there that you can use a spanner wrench on. I'm not going to recommend you go buy a spanner wrench because they don't really do much else. But what you can do is if you have some channel locks, even old crappy ones like mine, all you need to do is just get a little bit of a bite on this thing and unthread it. And an easy way to do that without scratching it all up is just throw a shirt over this and just grab it with these guys. And you just need to spin it a tiny bit till this thing's moving. And then take this guy off and you can set it aside. So now you can see, now that we have that cap off, you can see underneath here, this little circular guy, there's this little spacer that's right here, and you can leave that on for this job. There's a little notch on the back here that slides over. But what we're trying to get to is this little one right here. And there is a special tool that locks into these little notches that you can see right here. So you can either use a spanner wrench or one of these special notched wrenches or just our trusty channel locks. And all you need to do is just grab onto that and just tighten it a little ways. And you don't need to tighten this thing super tight. Mine I made really loose so I can actually spin it with my hands a little bit. So if you can just spin it a little with your hands, then grab your channel locks and then just go a hair tighter than what you can do with your hands. And you just want it tight enough that there's no more play in this, but you don't want to cram this down so tight that it's mushing all the bearings together. That's not good. So spin it till it's about finger tight, then maybe just go like 1/8 of a turn more and you should be pretty good. And then just grab this little cap again and just spin this back on. And now you want to spin this pretty tight. Doesn't need to be crazy tight. Basically this little top piece right here is just locking that ring into place to help keep it from loosening in the future. So pretty much finger tight. You can use your spanner wrench in these two holes, or you can just throw your shirt back on over it. Grab it with your channel lock wrench. Just give it a little tighten and then you're all good. So now just grab your handlebars again and we're just gonna find this little piece right here and just slot it right back in there till it goes all the way down. And then grab your P-handle 6 again and just tighten this up until it's about finger tight, because you still want this to be able to move. So what you'll need to do is once this is just kind of finger tight a little bit, is then you can fold this back up and then you can straighten out your handlebars. So fold that up, make sure your handlebars are straight. See how I can turn them now? So I want to just turn them so that they're straight in line with the wheel. And then gently bend this back down and tighten this guy the rest of the way. So I get it pretty tight with the rounded end. Then I come in here with this end, and this is when you really want to put some force into it and make sure that that's super tight so that that wedge is all wedged up in there all nice and tightly. So then we just need to put this little latch assembly back together. So first thing to do is stop fiddling with it. Go ahead and grab this little barrel here that you got again. And I'm going to slide it in, and you can see there's a rounded edge and a flat edge. So I'm just going to go ahead and slide it in there so that the rounded edge is pointing towards the latch. Then we want to grab our spring, and I'm going to slide the spring on first. And then we want to grab this little silver piece, and you want to set it so that this nub part is pointing down and this flatter part is on the top. So kind of nub down and on the top. And then that's going to slide in, so it looks like that. Then just grab your little Phillips bolt, and that's going to go back into this barrel down here. And then you can slot this latch over, and then carefully grab your Phillips screwdriver. And you're just going to screw this back into here. And you can see if you've done it correctly, this little silver bracket is going to slot right in between here. So if you're liking these instructional videos, please give it a like, a little thumbs up. Always appreciate that. If you have any questions on how to do any of this stuff, just leave it in the comments below. I always answer those. And just keep screwing in that Phillips until it's nice and snug. And then you can tighten that little 2mm down. Mine's on the other side now. So inside that barrel, I'm just snugging that little 2mm bolt, which is gonna hold that Phillips bolt into place. Then you can just pop it back up, latch it down, and you're all good to go. So once you're all finished tightening your headset, unfortunately, the only way to figure out if you've done it correctly is to go ahead and grab your front brake again, and then just push your bike forward and back the same way we did at the beginning, and make sure that it's not knocking or anything like that. If it isn't and it still turns nice and smooth, then you're all good. If there's still a bunch of play in it, then you kind of got to start over and do it again and tighten that little cone down a little bit more. And hopefully you can get it set just right. Just know that over time it can loosen up again and you may have to repeat this, but it's best to keep it adjusted properly or the bearings in there are going to wear out prematurely and then you'll have to replace all the bearings in there. So I hope you like this video. If you want more tips on how to work on your Lectric XP 2.0, I got a whole playlist right here, and I will see you guys on the next one.